push now to normalize pedophilia, and it bothers me when I hear that, and I hear a lot of it coming from like the gay side of it. Like there's this huge push in the LGBT community to normalize pedophilia, and I don't know if all the blame necessarily needs to be put on the LGBT community, but
Right.
I like, and I don't know why exactly they're trying to push for it, or if it's even real. Like, do you feel like there's an agenda out there to like normalize it?
Hey, I just wanted to say, just to be clear, neither Amanda Catarzi or I represent the LGBTQ plus community, and we do not support normalizing sex with minors. Just saying. Thanks.
Look,
I've
look
definitely
at it like
seen
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like you, like I'm not in the LGBTQ community. So I was like, ooh, I feels like they're using that movement as a cloak, just as a vehicle. So whoever they are that's pushing this agenda, it is terrifying. I mean, UNICEF just came out with a report that said denying children access to porn is denying human rights. And I was like, what?
God, my head
Who
is
the
sick.
hell did that study?
God, yeah, the whole porn issue is a whole other issue. Like, we're so desensitized now to everything. Nothing really shocks me anymore. But I can honestly say though, like for these people that really want to, who honestly believe that the push for pedophilia is coming from the gays or whatever, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I'm not on board with that, because for most men who like to have sex with men, they want to be with men. It's just like there's no desire. I feel like it's a different group of people, and there's something quite not right there.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, and no judgment. Who knows why they're like that? We can't control that. We don't necessarily know. But yeah, I want if anybody's listening, it's not just a gay thing. Straight people do it too. Believe me. Like it's a big thing in the straight community too. So let's not put so much blame on the gays.
Hmm. I think people get up in arms because um, I think they do tend to make, like, ultra conservatives tend to make that lines really blurred for them between anything that's not what they think it should be is pedophilia, is destroying our children. Vaccinations are coming for our children. Gay people are coming for our children. All of them are coming for our children, right?
Right.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
So unfortunately, there comes these very high walls on either side, and we can't have a conversation like this of like, hey, you're a gay man and you are not for pedophilia, and like, hey, I'm a straight woman and I've had my experiences, and I'm not for telling people what they can and cannot do with their bodies, but I'm for protecting children. Like, we can't have these conversations because the walls are so high on both sides that it makes it difficult, and so then that stumps all progress.
So many emotions. It's such a heated topic. People are just like, they don't want to start like down here. They want to start like, it's a very intense conversation to be having.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to touch on two things. Was one thing, you said your abuser, he had sexual experiences with women when he was young, and that's not something people want to talk about either. Like, they don't want to own the fact that women sexualize young boys too. It's a problem, and people are kind of silent on that whole discussion, I think.
It's totally hypocritical. Like, you have all those cases where young boys are, they have their teachers coming on to them and they have sexual relationships with their teachers, and they're like, oh, a male student and a woman teacher had a sexual relationship. Where if it's reversed, it's like, this male teacher raped this young girl. Like,
Right.
no, it's still rape because a minor cannot consent. So even if they were consensual legally, it's rape. They can't consent. And it is very hypocritical in that sense, as far as any sort of male and female relationship, even if it comes to a domestic violence situation. How many men are going to be like, yeah, my girl beats me up and like punches me in the face? Like, what are you supposed to do? They're totally got their hands tied behind their back. It's like they have no rights in a relationship because ultra feminism has taken stuff to an extreme and demasculated our male society. And it's creating a lot of issues.
Yeah, feminism, child sex trafficking, there's a lot there. Lot to unpack. Do you find yourself relating more to the conservative movement, or like, I'm a part of like the new conservative movement. I would consider it like alt-right, not far right, but like, but not super like conservative, but the new conservative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I would be the same, new conservative. Like, I used to consider myself pretty much in the middle, but the way the world's progressed, it's like, whoa, even being in the middle has gotten a little too much for me. Like I said, I believe in small government. Like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You do what you do. Love you. I don't have to agree with you in order to embrace you. Just don't hurt dogs, old people, or children, and we're good. That's how I believe it should run. I believe in term limits. I don't believe in any sort of absolute power. Like, we pay them, they serve us. And I think that's how it should be. And we've really gotten away from that.
And there's like this push, like the far left, I find, is like they want the government to have the control. They want the government to be able to dictate what people say. Like, you can't say this because it's racist, it's sexist, it's homophobic. And I would like to get the message across that it's okay if someone says something that's racist or homophobic, or it's okay if someone hates me as a gay person. That's okay, because the minute you take away their right to hate, the government's going to take your right away to express yourself or feel a certain way. They're not always going to agree with you. Mm-hmm. And like, I have my own feelings with like gay marriage, for example. Like, I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a good thing, because if you're going to tell the church who they can and cannot marry, you're going to be taking away people's religious rights. And then you take away people's religious rights, it's like, that's going to affect more people than I think gay marriage would. I don't know. It probably sounds crazy. I feel like to take away the rights of a majority of the population, just so this one small group of the population can have their right to marry, I'm just like, I don't think that makes any sense. I don't think that benefits more people. And I think the government has to make decisions that's going to benefit the greater society, like more people. So I don't think taking away people's religious liberties is going to help anyone.
I think that's very insightful of you. It takes a big mind to house conflicts, right? So a lot of my beliefs tend to conflict at certain points. Whereas I'm pro-life, but I believe that no one should tell me what I should do with my body.
Right.
How does that make sense? And I could explain it, but I'm just trying to prove a point here, is that it takes a lot of strength to have those conflicts inside your mind. And like you're saying, for the greater good. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think this current generation is really concerned with the greater good, because they've been trained not to think that way. They've been trained to microwavable meals, on demand, instant access, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That's it. They haven't invested in anything. They haven't been taught to invest in anything, or to have something denied from them right now for something better, in the future. They don't think that way. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's the culture we've created.
Yeah, we live in the age of instant gratification. We're seeing the consequences of that. But even that, I don't think people really want to admit to. And it's unfortunate, because waiting and working for things, it's a good thing in the long run. It benefits society. What do you think about what Trump did with sex trafficking? What are your feelings on that? Like, the work that he did? I don't think a lot of people really recognize that.
No, not at all, which is infuriating. But he's crazy, right? But he did a lot of good, more so than the Obama administration. Which, I've been to DC, I've written federal legislation, I work closely with my congressman. It was next to impossible to get any sort of movement on anti-sex trafficking bills or anything that would help protect victims.
America great again. Thank you very much, Pennsylvania. Go out and vote. Thank you, Pennsylvania. Thank you.
And then when the Trump administration came in, it was like the floodgates opened. There was so much funding and grants and opportunities to open shelters, to open safe houses, to protect victims. It was like a golden era for social work because everything just was massively funded. And a lot of people don't think that. A lot of people don't want to hear that. However, even the I don't know the name of it, but the Association of African American Colleges, they have to go and petition every single year for funding to the president, to Washington. President Trump wrote into place that they don't have to come every year, that it's just set in stone that they get this money done forever. And nobody sees any of that. Given I am not full-blown Trump, he's a wild man, right?
Yeah.
But he did a lot of good that I'm nervous will be reversed I'm nervous will be reversed in this process. There's a lot of scary things happening right now with this president currently.
And by the way, I sit on the stand, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
How many push-ups you want to do here, pal? Oh, come on, man. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man.
Give me a little break here.
One of my frustrations with the whole not the Trump movement, but when Trump was in office, so much energy people were spending with this whole border wall thing. People were not understanding how the border wall, it represents a lot of things, but one of the things it represents is, as a sign to human traffickers that we are not going to stand for sex trafficking. And people didn't understand the extent of which children and women were being trafficked into this country. And it just such how bad of a problem it was. And so it just killed me how people were spending so much energy on this debate of him being racist and hating Mexicans. It's it's not even about that, people. You're way back there. We're forward. We need to be thinking this is about children. This is about a reality that most Americans don't have to live with. Most Americans don't deal with the reality of having to sell their children to sex slavery. Not that that's every Mexican's reality, but I'm just saying in poor countries, it's real. That happens a lot.
Yep. And labor trafficking and organ harvesting is super common, especially from down south. So, I'm working with a safe house right now, and their biggest issue, and I cannot disclose where they're at, just know that they're down south. But their biggest issue is children being bought and sold for organ harvesting, which is insanely brutal. I will spare you the details, but these children are found in ditches, absolutely gutted. And they make a lot of money off these organs. And guess who the biggest buyers are? We are. Our hospitals, our government. And even the border called, when I worked for my past organization, the government called us asking us to train them in how to identify victims, because it was such a huge issue at the border. And they weren't separating children from their parents. They're separating children from traffickers. And they're trying to figure out who their parents are and how to get them back to them, with a language barrier, with cultural barriers, with funding barriers, right? And then trauma upon trauma on top of that. So it's a huge mess. And now it's absolutely horrific. It's basically our worst nightmare right now at the border, because there's so many children that are just being shipped through and their lives are being taken.
People aren't talking about it. There's no attention on it. It's disgusting. At all. There's this one story that I have the URL somewhere. It's horrific, but I remembered it, and I bring it up in conversations like this. But it was about this one girl who was found at the border, semen of 20 different men in her. They found You know, I'm like, that's so disgusting and horrific to even say, but like that broke my heart, because I'm just thinking people are arguing about racism. It's not even about that. This is about something horrific that these children are going through, and that's their reality. And like here we are, you know, arguing that Trump is a racist. Like it
far exceeds who's in office, right? It's an issue that far exceeds that. And if people could open their eyes to those greater goods that you were talking about, instead of who is on what side with what party, God, we could make some change in this world that would be substantial. But because we're so divided and focusing on what we can bicker about and what we feel like we can control, and won't give up our egos, you know, violence and evil perpetuates.
What was that? Say that last part again.
Violence and evil perpetuates.
Yeah. I think the problem with trafficking at the border has to do with like Pizzagate, that whole movement.
This is when we get into conspiracy theories. How do I answer this? I mean, I have not done enough research on Pizzagate to have a proper opinion. Are children being sex trafficked in America? 1,000%. Are they being trafficked at unprecedented numbers by elite people? Yes, because children cost money. So I used to tell people when I was introducing them to the idea of sex trafficking, it's the second most largest and lucrative illegal operation in America. You've got drugs, you've got illegal arms, and you have sex trafficking. And when you have a place that has money, when you have an area of people that have power and influence, you're gonna have drugs, and you're going to have children and people being bought and sold for sex, period. They go hand in hand. A drug dealer cannot resell his drugs once he's sold them. Exactly. He can resell a child 80 times a day until they die from sexual trauma. And then you just get a new one because the border's teaming with them and nobody cares. And CPS doesn't care if they go missing. That's why I quit working for CPS.
Oh, really? I've heard
I couldn't do it.
They're pretty corrupt.
Yeah, they're pretty corrupt. And even at the most local level, judges are being paid off to a degree. So, I mean, my last case, I looked the judge dead in the eye after he reunified a baby with a father who had raped the minor mother. And this was the child of it. And they gave the father the baby, custody of the child. And I'm like, how is this? And I'm like, well, and he had a violent past of breaking his children's bones. So there have been 2 prior cases where he'd broken a baby's ribs and broken his daughter's hand. So of course we can give him a newborn, no problem. There's no stress in that. And so I looked him straight in the eye. I'm like, listen, I know you're getting a bonus for reunification. I know Florida's a reunification state. If this kid dies, blood's on your hands, won't be on mine. I can't do this anymore. Done. We're done. And then I had a child who had run away, and she was a sex trafficking victim, and they didn't want to find her. I was like, who's looking for her? Where's the detective? Why am I doing all the detective work? I'm a social worker. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, got 25 cases. I never sleep. But I'm a private investigator now. Like, what's going on here? And I found her, but nobody wanted to find her.
Why? They just didn't care?
Just didn't care. Oh, that's what teenagers do. Oh, yep. She'll come back eventually. Yeah, after she's been raped 10 times. Like, how are you okay? How do you sleep at night? Yeah. So Pizzagate, do rich people tend to buy things that are illegal? Yes. Do they tend to have really strange fetishes and desires because of massive control? It warps your brain? Yes. Yeah. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to blackmail someone.
Honeypots. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's super normal.
Awful. Now, do you have a book?
I wrote a horror book, a horror novel. It's my first stab at fiction, so please be kind to me. It's called Down the Road. So I kind of integrated a lot of my different experiences and cases into a short novel. So I wrote that, and then I also compiled a workbook for visualization and mental rehearsal. So using quantum physics and the law of attraction, all that good stuff. It was more so just the way I journaled. So I just like, maybe somebody will want this. Threw it into a book and put it out there for people. So those are my 2 books. But my day job is I run a copywriting agency and I'm a copywriter. Yes.
Right. So are your books on Amazon, or where can people find them?
Yeah, they're both on Amazon. Then yeah, I can give you the links to them, or the novel is Down the Road. Subconsciously Conscious. That's what it's called.
So when is your book coming out about your story? Of the your trafficking story.
My life story. I have this weird thing that I'm like, man, when I accomplish something worth writing about, then that will be like my story, because I feel like I've had the opportunity to do a lot of great things. I've worked undercover with FBI. I've worked undercover with multiple government agencies and been all over the world doing anti-sex trafficking work. But like, I'm still waiting for that. There's so much work to still be done. I feel like if I wrote a book now, it would just be a fraction of what we're supposed to do here and what's supposed to happen. So, I mean, maybe when I am president of the United States, just kidding.
It's like the next, like, I get it. Like, it's like, I wrote a book too, and I've written 2 books. I haven't published a second one because I'm working with my copy editor, actually.
Awesome.
And so, but I feel like you can't really write that book unless that chapter is fully closed. And that's why I'm having trouble with my second book, is because it's almost closed, but not quite. And yeah, you need that chapter to close before you can move on. And so I get it.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of difficult for me to write about myself. Like, I don't think I'm that cool yet. Maybe one day I'll be that cool, but I still got a lot of stuff I got to do. So I'm not slowing down anytime soon. And I would love to read your book, both of them, by the way.
Definitely. So where can people find your story, follow your work?
I am just on Instagram again, because Instagram deleted my account. I posted too much about sex trafficking. I did for 9 years, and then they deleted it. So I just started over again, and it's Amanda Catarzi. It's my name. So if anybody wants to chat or talk about sex trafficking or whatever, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. They can DM me on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Same name. I live on both places. So yeah.
Awesome. I'll put that information up. All right. Thank you. I'm so glad that you were able to meet and take time and have this discussion. I appreciate it.
It's my absolute pleasure and honor. And I'm so honored to meet you. And thank you for sharing some of your experience. Well, I look forward to future conversations with you.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Made America safe again, and we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Pennsylvania. Go out and vote. Go out and vote. Thank you, Pennsylvania. Thank you.